When I say that Venice is the most beautiful city in the world, I mean it. At least on the west side. The bridges, the architectures, the canals, and nonetheless the story of this city. Venice feels like I traveled back in time. But it took me 2 years and 7 trips to get some photos I like. And in this video, I'm taking you along to discover why it took me so long. And finally, I'll show you some photos taken in Venice that I like. And that's enough for me to call this a successful day of photography. Venice has always given me itches. I see photographers everywhere taking super cool shots of the city, and I mean photos that really inspire me to create. But I've never been able to snap photos that I'm happy with. I have these two that I barely like from my previous trips, but you know. Venice is just an hour ride from where I live, which is kinda crazy because Venice is one of those places where people dream to go. It's like one of the lifetime destination for a lot of people. Crazy to think. Anyway, this was the 7th time because I've been lucky enough to exhibit some of my photos in there twice. Therefore, at every opening and closing of my exhibition, I've tried to take photos all day long. And I mean it, like summer, fall, foggy, morning, night, like every possible scenario I've tried to take photos. And guess what? I barely like any of them. The city itself is beautiful, and wherever your eye lands, there's something to look at. But wherever your eye lands, you also see people, to the point where you can barely walk. I'm not gonna complain about overtourism at all because being there makes me part of the problem. And it's more than right that people get the chance to see such a beautiful and historical place. But Venice is small. Streets are small, bridges are small, and this makes the whole process of creating something I like pretty hard. But this time I was super motivated and I promised myself not to leave until I get something. Speaking of gears, I've been using the Sony a7R5 for both photos and videos, and for lenses I've got the Sigma 24-17 and the Thyphoch Eureka 50mm. If you know me, you know I love shooting with longer and prime focal length. But for these videos I also need something wider to, provide you some context and have more coverage shots. So that's why I picked up the Sigma 24-17, the first version actually, because it was cheaper. Not for anything else. I could have stuck with just the Sigma, but for photos I prefer something small like the Eureka to stay discreet. Plus there's something magical about shooting in manual focus that I barely can describe. It makes you be there and be there for real. You have to stay focused because you can zone focus with the 50mm, but the portion is way smaller than the 28 or the 35. So most of the time I found myself refocusing for every scene, and this helped me to be there and focus myself on the shot I want to take. While the Sigma is my go-to for videos, it's a great lens. And now, finally, yes, I took some photos that I like. It was hard and I had to work for hours before getting something. This is one of my favorite, and to be honest, I think it's also one of my best shots so far. I snapped it right in front of the train station on the very first bridge you see when you hop off the train, and it was like 40 minutes before getting back to Bologna. I had to guess the distance to get the right focus because the scene was happening and I had to sprint a few steps to get the right composition, which, to be honest, I eyeball it. Because, you know, they were about to cross the bridge and the guy with the sunglasses wasn't with them, so he was about to step out of the scene. From this shot, I loved the composition, and to be honest, again, I've eyeballed it with a good amount of luck, because there's lines and the contrast between the sky and the skin tones, and then we have the eye in the center, and then we also have this like odd stuff happening with this cloud. It was during Carnival, so I think they were masked or something like that. I wish I could tell you more about this cloud right here, but I really have no idea. Probably some sort of a weird mask. I don't really know. My eyes, to be honest, were caught by the umbrella and nothing else. There's few more shots that I like, and the thought process was all about balancing stories with aesthetic purposes. I generally think that stories are the most important aspect when it comes to photography, but I also think that it's super important to finding balance between the story and the aesthetic, because it's a great way to enhance images. Without necessarily going into personal preference, we can find beauty in every details, whether it's something loud and clear or something very small that triggers something in our guts. Documenting the aesthetic is equal as important as documenting the reality. There could be times where the subject can support the picture alone, or times where there's no subject at all. To be honest with you guys, I'm always in search of the best possible shot I can get from a specific moment or a specific place, and this makes me lose a lot of shots and opportunities, because for me it's often never enough. I push myself and my boundaries to the limits, and sometimes to the point where I barely even shoot. And don't get me wrong, I'm okay with it. It's my way of shooting and it's my way of seeing photography. But I'm starting to realize that maybe I need to be a bit more loose with myself and accept that not every photo has to be a masterpiece. Documenting places, faces, and even the boring parts of the city, it's about the process. It's part of the process and it's part of the journey. And incorporating videos into my work is making me more relaxed about the scenes I want to capture. I'm like, okay, I would not photograph this, but maybe it's okay for a video. Because when I can't freeze what I want to, I try to record a small portion of the normal life, of the boring life, and trying to tell story with more than just one frame. In the end, it's important to remember that we can't always win, and things might not go in the direction we want to, but with consistency and pushing harder towards our goals, we can achieve results we might not even expect. Being a creative is not always simple, but don't forget why you're doing what you're doing. Guys, I really hope you liked this video. Let me know about your experience in Venice or anything you want to share. I hope you liked the photo I'm proud of. Finally, it's a pain relief. And also please consider subscribing to the channel because it helped me grow this project. You can follow me on Instagram for more. Link is in the description, or something there around. Thank you for making this far, and I'll see you in the next one.